message all these people.
And y'all tell me what to do. I have people DMing, so.
Yeah.
It says streaming.
Oh, there you go. It just came in and out for a second.
Yeah. Oh. Okay.
All right, cool. JD, you can log out from the Google Meet and then go to the YouTube channel. You'll be able to see it in there, and then we can get started from there.
Okay.
Thank you.
There we go. All right. So we're on a little bit of a lag.
There you go. It just came in and out for a second.
But Elvic, real quick, just how so we can't necessarily have people interact then. So right? Okay. Cool. All right. So we'll get started. There we go. All right,
cool.
guys. Sorry for the delay. This is our first time going on YouTube Live. As you can tell, we're going through some technical difficulties here, but we've got it all figured out, at least for now. So let's go. Let's roll into it. Bethany Nolan, thank you so much for being here. We're super excited to have you back. We just recently had you on the Light It Up podcast I guess we filmed about a month and a half ago, but we just released the episode last Wednesday. It's got a ton of views, ton of traction. We're getting a lot of good questions coming from that. So we thought nothing better to, of course, have you on one of our webinars. So thank you so much for joining us today.
Hey, love to be here. I like getting into nitty-gritty details, so I'm excited about the focus that we have today. It is very much my cup of tea.
Awesome. Well, I find it very hard, and then you said this is certainly your goal. I find it hard to go on to Instagram or TikTok these days, and without seeing one of your reels. So you're great at keeping top of mind, not only with your clients, but of course with other realtors. I see a lot of people out there, imitating your reels and redoing your reels, and of course, imitation is a very high form of flattery. So we really do appreciate you spending some time with us today. I think a lot of people certainly look up to you, especially when it comes to reels and Instagram. So I thank you again for spending some time with us.
Yeah, thanks. I love to be able to talk too, so not just have voiceovers. So it gives my little humanization touch. So I appreciate it.
Yeah, I think it's important too for some of the people who might not be familiar with you. If you could just share a little bit about yourself and how you built your business through social media, so they can get an understanding of why this is such an important topic to talk about and to go into.
Absolutely. I'll give a quick little snippet. Brokerage. My dad is my broker owner. We call him Broker Scott. I cover the East Texas area. I am a 9th generation Texan and then 7th generations from my county. So my roots go very deep and I love where I'm from. I have a background in social media and public relations. My undergrad is from Texas A&M University. Whoop. And that is in agricultural communications and journalism. Then I have a master's from Texas Tech University, which is focused on the public relations realm, but it's agricultural communications. And then I did a quick stint in public relations in Houston at a global firm. So a lot of background in that knowledge, analytics, how social media works, the in and outs of media. And then I've been in the real estate industry for about 5.5 years. Really involved in that, dove head first, moved home in 2017 to East Texas. So been involved in my community, involved in social media, and I've learned a lot and gotten to interact with a lot of really, really cool people in the industry.
Yeah. And in the 5-year timeline that you've been in there, because if someone doesn't know you and they hear, oh, Nolan Properties, they might be like, oh, well, her dad's hooking her up with everything.
Nope.
So how has the impact of you using social media and being involved in your community impacted your business personally in the last 5 years?
Gosh, tenfold. No, of course, I am very blessed to have a father to have as a mentor that is in the industry. I do not discount that. I have that capability. But to have social media be kind of my marketing technique, so instead of me having to cold call, for me to showcase my personality, my business, my education, I really focus on education and entertainment, which we'll dive into today with these Reels tips. But it gives me an aspect of edutainment, which gives me a sense of credibility. I am young in this industry, so a lot of people don't want to, immediately trust you because they're going to go trust someone that's been in the industry for 20 years. And while I can't beat the years of experience, I can in knowledge and in education. So I really hone in on my social media with that, which I find gives me a lot of credibility for my social media marketing. And that's kind of my ploy when I go meet buyers, when I go meet sellers, to say, hey, I've got the biggest following in the area. Let's chat about how that impacts your listing. And then that also just attracts buyers to me.
Yeah, which is awesome. Yeah. And by the way, for anybody watching, we have like 26 people. You could write in the chat any questions you have, and we'll shoot them at Bethany as they come through. But yeah,
I'm like, at this point, I'm like, yeah, we'll probably see them. I don't know, March or April, because we're still picking up on this YouTube thing. But no, I have the chat pulled up on my screen here as well. So again, bear with us if you're just joining us now. We're still getting the hang of this live on YouTube stream. But again, really excited to spend some time with Bethany again today. We've had a lot of great feedback from her podcast episode, which was released last week. So without any further ado, we'll let you take the wheel here, Bethany.
Absolutely. So today I know our main focus is on 10 real ideas for Instagram. But before I really dive into those top 10, I do want to highlight a couple of things that I think are really important when it comes to video tactics. And these are just things to always keep in the back of your mind going into making these videos. And the first thing is, what are 3 things that make you unique? So write it down. Keep that as your reminder. Everyone in every business has values and mission statements. Make it your personal mission statement to know your brand or to know what you're going to niche down on. So are you focusing on first-time home buyers, investors? Think of what you're focusing on and what's going to make you unique. Are you involved in your community? Highlight that and make that your specialty. And that's going to help guide a lot of the reels that you create. And it's going to just keep you accountable on what you want your messaging and branding to be. So that is first and foremost what you should always utilize as a reminder. And when it comes to making these videos, keep in mind that you want them to be raw and real. You want to seem personable so that people follow along and want to follow you and learn from you and feel like you're relatable as a realtor and as a human, because they'll work with you in a very intimate space on finances and emotions. Make sure it is professional. Know that you can reuse, rinse, and repeat everything that you do. Not everything has to be created from scratch, and we can dive into that as we go into different things, but you don't have to reinvent the wheel every time you make content. And I think people make it more difficult than it has to be. And my saying is always, it doesn't have to be that deep. It's not that deep. Keep it simple, because when you overcomplicate it, you burn yourself out and you just stop making content. So don't overwhelm the situation. And then just post over perfection. It's so important not to just try to nitpick. You're going to be your own biggest critic. So post over perfection. So as we say those, go on, sorry.
No, I like that.
But as we go on, we'll just dive straight into kind of the real ideas. And as I say each one, I think it's good for all of us to dive in on how we would interpret that differently. So first, I would say introduce yourself. Everyone should know who you are, and you can't expect people to remember who you are. I try to introduce myself with Reels once a month. I think it's such a rude move to say, well, everyone knows who I am. They know my area. Every time I post an introduce yourself reel, someone will comment and say, oh my goodness, I have family in East Texas. I had no idea. And they've been following me for a year. The algorithm moves and it's so different that people they don't know what they don't know. So remind them, hi, I'm Bethany Nolan. I'm a real estate agent and I cover the East Texas area. And then go deeper in your content. It's a really easy way to just showcase who you are and what you cover. So I think that's going to be your first and foremost, just most important thing to make sure you're constantly doing. And that's at least once every 4 weeks. So introduce yourself. If you listen to the last podcast, my second one is utilize a listicle. We taught John what a listicle was on that. So everyone loves a list. You love a checklist, you love anything. So really teach people 5 ways to save for a down payment, 6 ways that you can prep your home to sell. It's really simple to do. And if you do at least one listicle a week, then there you go. And then people like to save them. People really want to save this content that they can come back to. It could even be 10 ways to make sure that you get a higher credit score by the end of the year. One of my most successful ones for this year is 10 ways to become a home buyer this year. And it's just saying, hey, save for a down payment, get your credit score together, look at your debt, get pre-approved, et cetera, et cetera. While it may seem simple for us as a realtor, we need to bring everything back down to earth and make it very simple and in layman's terms. And these listicles really help us do it. But I don't leave it at the listicle. I don't leave it on the shiny page. I go really deep and in depth in my caption area. And I think that's where a lot of people miss. And I think that's where a lot of real estate agents or just a professional in the industry can have that competitive advantage or just credibility by just sharing the deep information. So I think that's really, really an easy way to utilize that content.
And just to clarify, what Bethany's talking about for listicles is when she's doing this in her videos and then things pop out. The reason why it's called edutainment, if you think about it, is people get captivated with the list. But then when you read the captions, Bethany, no joke, leaves essays in there, and she'll will educate you about that topic that she goes into in depth. So that's what Bethany's more or less talking about.
Yes, and you don't have to make it shiny and pretty where every time you point, it pops up. You can just stand there and have it all there. You don't have to transition. You don't have to make it difficult. Start simple. But when you give kind of a list or a checklist for people to do, they're going to save it. They're going to screenshot it. They're going to come back to it. And honestly, other realtors will share it. Other lenders will share it because it's good content to share with their clients.
As all of that, these listicles, are they all coming? Are you taking the time to write out those 5 things that you should do to save for a down payment? Or is this something that you've, found an article on, money.com, or was it, I know you said that a lot of times you get some of your ideas from Pinterest. Tell us a little bit more about that. Cause I think sometimes the idea of coming up with the 5 topics can be stressful in itself.
Oh, absolutely. I use a lot of different methods. So my first method that I really recommend is looking at news sources. So Bigger Pockets, Keeping Current Matters, money.com, a lot of different resources that are credible and are correct. Realtor.com, NAR, National Association of Realtors, they come out with really good details. If you like it, save it. And I utilize Pinterest as my saving source. Pinterest also has a ton of good graphics to save that already have things broken down, but do your fact checking and make sure it's right, because you are now being a thought leader when you're making this content. So you need to make sure that what you're saying is right and what you're saying is factual and educational. So make sure that if you're taking an idea from somewhere, that is actually true. I will contact a lender sometimes and say, hey, read this in an article. Is this correct? I'm not sure. I want to do it before I say it.
Right.
So that's a really good resource.
Great.
And then lastly on that is I ask my clients questions all the time, and it helps me make my content. So I have a first-time home buyer and I say, hey, what is something you didn't know about this? And I keep a lot of notes. Some of them are like, I didn't know this about inspections. I had no idea that I didn't need 20% down. Whatever it is, I'm keeping notes because if they didn't know that, other people don't know it. So utilize the people in front of you to help make your content. You can grab content from anywhere. Just make sure that what you're utilizing it for is factual too.
Awesome.
And so first was introduce yourself. Second is utilizing a listicle. Third is going to be to combat a misconception. This is the easiest reel you can make. There are so many misconceptions in the industry, but you do have to be careful on what you're combating. You have to make sure that you are, as I say, go in depth in your caption on what you're saying. So you can say, hey, you don't need 20% down for a down payment. Honestly, I try to do that once a month because it's so common. But I am going to go down into the caption and say, hey, different loan programs ask for different down payments. It can depend on your credit score, your program, et cetera, et cetera. So make sure that you are giving those disclaimers in there with it. So they're not like, well, my friend did 0 down. Why can't I do that? Well, they could have had a VA loan. They may have gotten down payment assistance that you have to qualify for. So go deeper if you're going to do that misconception. There are so many out there. There's so many great articles out there, and it doesn't have to be controversial. It's just a misconception that people don't know about, like skipping an inspection and why you shouldn't do that. So it was a really hot topic when the market was really, really hot. Everyone should skip inspections, so you can say, I don't recommend skipping them. Do these different misconceptions and really break them down on why they are. And that's where your captions are going to give you that credibility.
Nice.
So would you say that the intention with that is sometimes to create some engagement on the comments?
Absolutely. We always want engagement. We want them to learn from it too. I want people to save this. I want them to share it. A lot of people saving my stuff are going to be first-time home buyers. And I want people to understand it. And it feels, as a real estate agent, you hear it all the time. You say it all the time. It feels so tiny saying, you don't need 20% down. And you're like, well, that's so dumb. That's not feels like I'm going deep. It really is, because people's attention span is short these days. They need to see it. They need to go quick, and they're going to scroll over you. So what you say needs to be concise and it needs to be quick, but you do need to go deep for sure. But I want people to engage. I want people to combat me. I'll go deeper into timelines in a few, but I did one the other day and a lender was like, well, I can do it quicker. That's great. I hope you get all the business in the world. I love that for you, but this is what it normally looks like for people in my area.
Right.
And for example, I always disclaim that I am from Texas. All of my content is from a Texas point of view because we have different laws, we have different regulations. So it is important too, if you're from a state that has different type of regulations, then people need to know that. So next would be to compare and contrast. So this or that. So if you can find two items that people don't know about, a good way to do it is the most obvious, renting versus owning. Secondly, it could be a conventional loan versus an FHA loan. A lot of mortgage lenders do, here's how much you would get if you did 15% down versus 5% down. I like to say, as real estate agents, be very careful of putting numbers into anything, just because they can vary and lenders get those numbers and they have to put those disclosures in there. But you can put, here's how much you need down. If you're buying a $300,000 home, here's what 15% looks like. Here's what 5% looks like. It's simple math, but it's easy. And you're not getting that wrong. I hope you're not. But this or that can be really impactful when you're just saying renting versus owning. Here's your pros and cons, but don't just put only pros on owning and only cons on renting. I always like to level it out.
Don't be that agent that's just, trying to tip the scales to convince everybody to buy. Right.
Exactly. And I always tell people, I'm like, if you're going to be around less than 2 years, you probably don't need to buy.
Right.
So this is why. And so explain that, but don't ever make it look like you are just so biased in one direction on the this or that. There are pros and cons to every situation, but it's a really simple way to do comparisons.
Good. That's helpful.
Yeah, those are one of my favorites. And then next is a timeline, and timelines can almost look like a listicle. So I just did one on what does the mortgage timeline look like? A lot of people know, what does the home buying timeline look like? What is the pre-approval timeline? It was, what does it look like? Final pre-approval, underwriting, clear to close. And it was a good breakdown. Now that's where I am going to get engagement from these lenders that go, I can get them closed in 10 days. I'm like, that's fabulous. I love that for you. I'm just giving an overview look of what this would look for a normal, regular home buyer. And people, I can find that information on Pinterest. I can find it in just working with clients and say, it took me 2 days to get the contract executed. Got that done. What's next? Earnest money's due in 3 days. What's next? Those timelines are a fantastic way for clients just to get a good feel of what it's going to look like to buy the home. And it doesn't have to be mortgage. It can be pre-approval. Now, the one thing I don't like to get into, and this is personal preference, is when it goes, how long is it going to take me to buy a home? That is its own beast. I have clients that it'll take a year. I have clients it'll take a week. So I leave that one to the side, but you do what you're comfortable with and what you know. You could do, how long is it going to take me to list a home once I sign a contract with you? Anything like that, because people just don't know.
Sure.
Yeah. So you avoid things that are of preference versus like actually can be measured. So it could take someone a day. Got it. Okay, cool.
Yeah, because it's just, it's dependent on the agent. It's dependent on the person. Some person may need 10 days to look over a document and sign it. We never know. But I always disclaim, if I feel like it could be a little controversial, this is what a typical timeline looks like. Not all are the same.
Got it.
So next is going to be a home tour and walkthrough. Y'all, you can find any trending sound that works and just walk through a home. Put yourself in it, don't put yourself in it, but it's a great way to showcase listings of yours or in your office. When I get my professional photography done on my listings, I have a videographer who is in our office, and he comes in and does vertical and horizontal videos for me. And we make them look fantastic, but all I have to do is put a sound over it. And you can use them a couple of different ways. So you can say, this is what $500,000 gets me in East Texas. Or you can say, check out this new home in East Texas. Find a good hook that's going to pull people in. Or you can just do a walkthrough. But reuse those on your Instagram stories too. You can reuse them on TikTok, YouTube Shorts, and Facebook. But those home tours and walkthroughs are a really, really easy way to just cross promote your listings.
So just to clarify, so you're talking about the actual video tour your videographer gives you, but are you doing another video tour where you're actually walking through yourself?
It depends. I try to always put myself in it so I can be seen on my channel. Sometimes I don't, but what I typically do is I just open the door and then let my videographer do his thing, so that I'm seen at the beginning. But on regular listing videos where I'm just doing the walkthrough, I'm not in those because our MLS does not like branding or anything too unique. But I try to at least be in the beginning if I'm going to use it on a reel.
Got it. Makes sense.
Yeah. And so from those home tours and walkthroughs, which is a really easy way to utilize, and you can do them yourself, y'all. Get your phone, walk through a property, play around with it. It doesn't have to be perfect at the beginning. If you go and look on what people are doing, it's not that deep. So next is going to be showing a day in the life, which is a look at being behind the scenes. So I won't say I'm the best at these. I try my hardest, but you have to put in a lot of effort to a day in the life. You have to remind yourself, post, do all that fun stuff. So the best recommendations I have for a day in the life is just to remind yourself to take a couple of 5-second videos multiple times during the day. If you go, I'm not going to remember to do it, promise yourself to post Instagram stories all day and then save all of those Instagram stories and upload it as a reel. Instagram has actually added in a new technology where you can save. It just popped up on mine in the past few weeks where you can save a story and upload it as a reel. But you can save the whole story and do it that way if you want to. You can do a voiceover. You can just do sound over it and just put a day in the life as a real estate agent. You don't have to look busy the whole day. You can be running errands. You can have lunch with a friend. You can show yourself going to a local coffee shop too between showings. But just give people insight on what your life looks like.
Would
One
you
question
say,
that
good?
One question that came in from SV is when you're talking about like editing the reels and doing a voiceover, they're asking what software and which equipment should they use for creating those reels?
I create everything in Instagram right now. I do not overcomplicate the process, but if you are looking for a software, I like TikTok. I like editing over in TikTok. I can save it through TickMate and then upload it within Instagram, or you can buy the Splice app. I do like the Splice app a lot as well. And you can talk in over there. You can add audio. It's very easy to edit on your phone, but I like to edit within the app. I think it keeps it simple for me.
Somebody, Kiro, recently told us on our podcast that
Like the algorithm.
the algorithm
Yeah.
likes when you do at least some of your editing within the Instagram app.
They do.
So if you do all of your editing outside of the app and then bring it back just to post it, it won't be treated as preferentially as as if
Someone
you
who
had done
did.
the editing within the app. So just
It
a
ain't
thought
that
out there.
deep, y'all.
It ain't
Yeah.
that deep.
But
Yeah,
but
they
don't
want you to
I think
use
if you're getting caught up in like editing software and do I need to go out and buy a fancy light or a fancy microphone? I mean, I see people use some of those microphones. You can get them on Amazon for $20.
Mhm.
Kiro, I know you've purchased those. Guys, we could all get a ring light up, off of Amazon for $20, $30, $40, $50, and you can film with your iPhone, right? So
Yep.
don't overthink the software and stuff. If you get caught up in all that stuff, you're going too deep.
I edit everything within the app and I always get asked that. I do recommend, and I can go into this later on, but with lighting and stuff, go with the cheaper option first. I do it with shoes, I do it with clothes, I do it with equipment. So when people ask me for recommendations on ring lights, I have a $30 one I started with. And then I upgraded down the road once I used it enough, and now mine's about $200. I love it. It's the best thing in the world to me, but you don't have to start off so strong. Just get used to it and then invest in the bigger one. So
Awesome.
I would say utilizing the app, but I will note right now Instagram is glitching. So make sure that whenever you are preparing your content and your wording, you are saving that final version to your phone. So that if it does glitch, when I've been uploading, my boxes have been gone and people have been freaking out. They're like, Bethany, you have boxes normally. I'm like, thank you. Bless y'all for being so engaged. But just at least save that final version. So if something does happen, you can re-upload it in there because Instagram it's going through some stuff. It had a breakup or something.
I just want to keep us on track. We got about 20 minutes left for the rest of your points because I wanted to save about 5 minutes at the end for questions and answers. So
Well,
just
it's a
to keep
good
us on
thing. We have
pace.
3
Yeah,
left.
3 more.
Oh, awesome.
We're at 8.
So next is going to be to share customer testimonials. So a lot of people get reviews from their clients on Zillow. You get them on realtor.com. They send them to you for your website. Take a picture of it like it's a tweet or like it's a little post and a quote. Put a pretty background behind it with a home walkthrough or with a pretty image and put it over a sound. There's your content. It shows up in an aesthetically pleasing way and there's sound. So that's a really good way to not only showcase your work, but showcase how much people love you and good music behind it with trending audio. Next is going to be tips and tricks. So this can be anything from tips on saving for a down payment, tips on upping your credit score. It could be how I make my listings stand out through marketing. It can be anything, but people love a little tip here and there. And it doesn't have to be a lot of things. It can be one thing. It can say, what do you need to be looking for in a home inspection? You need to be worried about foundation, mold, water leaks, roof, electrical. They like those tips and tricks that are coming in there. And then last is going to be the local spotlight. So as a real estate agent, you're expected to know about your community, be a pillar of your community. You need to know what's coming in. So show yourself at these places. It's a huge goal of mine even this year to start doing more spotlights at coffee shops, restaurants, and just showcase what our community has. people will follow my Instagram stories and say, oh, I'm going to try this new place because I saw you post it and it looked amazing. Showcase it on there, because now you're the person they're coming to because you know your area. You know the events that are going on. It doesn't have to be a restaurant. It can be an event. It could just be a park in your area that you want to showcase. If you're into pickleball, it can be a new pickleball space. That's really hot right now with people. So showcase what local items are going on in your area so people can see how fun it is to live where you live. I live in a rural community. My town has less than 5,000 people in it, but I make it look like, because it is, I make it look like the most hallmarky, fun, beautiful town with the community in it. But because I am showcasing it, I'm not letting other people tell the story of it through random photos. I'm making it look fun to live here. And I've had people change their mind from living in cities with 100,000 people and more amenities to my small little hometown because they were like, y'all just look fun. There's a community and y'all are so involved in each other's lives. I want to be there. And that's a huge compliment to my town, but also you've got to show it so people know it.
Yeah.
How do I showcase like this great new local coffee shop that just popped up? Like I just want you to elaborate on that a little bit, because I think you mean not just taking a picture and tagging that you're there with your cup of coffee. Are you actually like interviewing the owner? Are you saying what you liked and what you didn't like? Are you just, filming a reel while you're there? Talk to us a little bit more about that.
You can make it as complicated as you want or as simple as you want. So if you want to interview the owner, you really want to showcase them because you think that they are such a big part of the story of this place, have at it, make that plan. My personal preference is just taking, as I said, with showing a day in the life, little snippets of while I'm there. So when I show up, I'm doing a video of the outside. I'm walking in. I'm kind of showing the menu, making my order, showing a couple of seconds of the inside. One thing I will say that helps with this content is consume, consume, consume. See what other creators are doing. See what you can mimic. Take what you like, leave what you don't. So I really like the way these people come in. One that I follow is called A Taste of Cocoa. She's out of Austin, Texas. And she just does these really fun videos in all these restaurants, and they all look delicious and yummy. And I just want to go because of her. And so it's just quick snippets of little things of her meals. But instead of taking a picture, you're just taking a 3-second video of it. It is going to require some editing. This is a little bit of a deeper process than compare and contrast or pointing at a listicle. But it makes you just sound like you know your community. So decide the way you want it by just consuming what other people do and save it and study it.
Yeah. You went over it slightly in terms of introducing yourself, but on I think it's the weekends you do this thing with the coffee. Is that what do you call that?
Coffee Snob Friday.
Coffee. And what's the basis of that conversation that you have in there?
So I started this a while back because I feel like I know all about the wines and I wanted to learn all about the coffees. And so I started reviewing local coffee shops' coffees. And it was before Keith Lee became cool. So if y'all are on TikTok, I'm just letting y'all know. I was doing it before then. But it's where I am just simply showing people the coffee, where they're located, what's it about. The one I'm doing this week, it is a veteran-owned company, and they give proceeds back to veterans with PTSD. And so it's just a way to showcase these coffees, but I also taste and I'm honest and I'm real with my faces. So it's a fun way for people to get to know my personality, but to also show different places in the area, how they can order it. Should you go inside? Should you order online? Do they only set up at events? And it's been a great way to showcase.
I would say one thing that's super important that you didn't highlight over as much, but it's what you see when you follow your social account, is that people come for all the education that you provide, but they probably follow you because of your personality and the way you're able to present yourself in there. It's like you don't hold back. So that coffee tasting thing, I probably don't even hear what you're saying, but I see your facial reactions and I think it's hilarious. And I was like, oh, she's mad cool. But that's why people would engage and even trust in you more in that process, like you were saying earlier, building that rapport from there. John, do you want to go over any of the questions that are on the
I think there's one more, right? One more point.
No, that was
No.
10. And
That was
also,
10. All right.
this is all 10 of these are just ideas, but the biggest way that I do this, and my focus is edutainment. So I want people to understand I did it, as he said, to showcase my personality and to show it in a different aspect. So find what works for you. If you don't like pointing, if you don't like dancing, if you don't like doing that, then talk to the screen. There are so many ways for you to do it, but follow people inside and outside of your industry. So I don't get my inspiration from real estate agents. I like to see what they're doing, but I pull it outside of the industry. I'm looking at fitness influencers, mommy bloggers, food bloggers,
Finance
anybody
cowboy.
else. I love the finance cowboy. He's fantastic.
You introduced us to him, and we just had him on the podcast a couple weeks ago.
Oh, good.
Or last week, and he was awesome. We're like, you don't know this, but you have a big fan, Bethany Nolan. If you could give her a shout out, and I think you gave her a shout out. We told him to follow you. And yeah, he for those of you that don't follow him, look up the Finance Cowboy. I asked him if he knew the Naked Cowboy, which is a big guy in Manhattan. He stands in Times Square. He plays the guitar naked, but there's no relation apparently.
Yeah, no.
But
they're not related.
Finance Cowboy was awesome, but I think just to touch upon that point, in all seriousness, a lot of what inspires you to do your reels, you said you're not getting from other real estate agents. You're getting from, like you said, Taste of Coco, Mom. What was the mommy?
So I would say I like Taste of Coco. I like Brock 11 Johnson. He is a social media marketer. Maya Nickel, that's MYANICHOL. She's fantastic. She's a social media marketer. I mean, you can look at Jasmine Star. There's a handful. And you can go to my page and just see who I follow. That's how I find a lot of people that I like. I go see who they follow and I go look for inspiration there. But it's really important that I don't mind if people take inspiration from me. Just tag me so I can engage. I don't mind that at all. Reuse, rinse, and repeat. But I feel that if I take an idea from a real estate agent, I'm only going to think of it in the perspective that they gave it because it made so much sense. So I really try to switch it up and just see what they're utilizing it for and doing.
Yeah. For instance, if you didn't catch our webinar with David Calhoun 2 weeks ago, one of the things he was saying was sometimes when he's looking for inspiration, he'll literally just flip through reels like we all do on your phone with his eyes closed. And he's like, how can I relate this to real estate? And it will be non-real estate related reels. And then he'll sort of make it into a reel. So, that's something that I took away from two people that I think are highly creative, you and David. Both are saying, let me look for something that's outside of real estate and then relate it to the real estate industry. And the other thing I'll say on that too is just be really specific on what you're looking for, right? I mean, your focus seems to be mainly on buyers and sellers, of course, right? I'm sure there are people watching this that are trying to focus on agent attraction for recruiting to their EXP downline or to their real downline, or they're just trying to bring agents within their brokerage. Whatever your goal may be, just make sure you're really specific about the reels that you're doing. So, just if you're trying to make like a listicle, right? Top 5 reasons you should do X, Y, and Z. Make sure it is buyer focused, seller focused, agent focused, whatever it is that you're trying to attract.
Yeah. One of the questions that came in, Bethany, is from Olivia. She says, that's my issue. I'm like, that's simple. I want to be different and trying to reinvent the wheel. And that's why she's burnt out. So for someone who's trying to make it their own in a way, what suggestions or recommendations do you have without them feeling burnt out?
So I create my content in separate pieces, and I think that's really helped with my burnout. So I have a full reel process where one day, or at least 5 to 10 minutes each morning, I just consume my content and then I keep notes over time. I save things to Pinterest. That's separate. That's one bucket of the pillar of my reel creation. Next, I designate a day to batch. So find one day a week that works for you. Mine's Tuesday mornings. Make it a morning though, because we all get busy in the afternoons and evenings. We're not ready. We're not going to do it. So make sure you have one morning each time you go in to create content. After you figured out that day you're going to batch, that's where you're going to go in and just make the content. Just make the video. Don't go in and add the words. Don't go in and add the caption. Just make it and leave it. So first, I'm consuming and keeping notes. Second, I'm finding a day to batch. And then third, I'm creating the content, leaving it, saving the drafts on my phone. Because when you log out of Instagram, it deletes all your drafts. So save, save, save. Then on a separate occasion, I come back and edit the captions and I edit my content, and I'm utilizing that information. For me, I do it in the evenings before I go to bed. That's not going to work for everyone, but it works for me. I understand people with kids or people that have very hectic schedules like that can't do it, but that works. So maybe if you're batching Tuesday morning, on Wednesday morning, you're finding your captions and creating your content. And then I save it and I leave it. And then I come back and I post and I find the best time. Your analytics always tell you the best time to post. So separating this content and creating these reels into separate facets and pillars really is going to help prevent that burnout, and it's going to keep your creativity flowing. And the reason why I make it each week is to stay up with those trends. So Olivia, I hope that answers your question. And guys, let me know if y'all want to add more onto that.
Yeah.
The only thing I'll add on is that, if you listen to the whole podcast where Bethany goes into this, she gave everyone a list of 10 best practices out of 890 posts that Bethany has had on her Instagram. There's probably more that are archived and hidden. That Listicle was one that actually clicked and got engagement. So now that's one thing she's like, all right, my viewers want to see more of this. I'm going to trend more to this. So it was through trial and error that Bethany created this top 10 formula that works really effectively for her. And like she said earlier, it might work for you as well. It might not. But once you find what engages with your group of people, your audience, you'll only know through quantity, not quality. And then from that point on, you can start zeroing in on the quality of what is clicking with your audience.
Yeah.
Is that well said, Bethany, or did I do a bad job saying that?
And let your analytics speak to you. Your analytics are there to tell you what people want. So you can go in your insights on Instagram and look and see what days your followers are online. So it'll guide you in your time to post. But also you can go and not just look at how many views you got, but go in on each reel and see how many shares and saves are on there, because that's showing you what people found to be beneficial and what they felt was educational, and let that guide you. It is a trial and error on anything in social media, and social media is ever changing. So pay attention to what the platform is telling you.
Yeah, if you look at our Instagram analytics, more people will watch the clips when I'm on them versus Kiro. So that's one thing that we really learned is that just to try to, put this face. No, I'm just kidding.
The numbers are the numbers.
The numbers don't lie, people.
Bethany.
So no, but honestly, I think just to touch upon one of those questions that came in though, is how do you not get burnt out on trying to make it unique? The list doesn't have to be unique. The 10 ways or 5 ways to save for a down payment, right? You can borrow that information. Like we've said this on other webinars before too. If you're stealing from me, you're stealing twice, right? Because I probably took it from somebody else. But you can reinvent the information and repost it and make it your own by just tweaking a few things, right? Like you may not agree with the 5th reason on how to save for a down payment. So make the 5th one your own reason, right?
Yep.
And just by you presenting the information, these 5 ways, like you're making it your own that way, right? Like it's your unique personality, your unique background, how you deliver the information is going to be unique. So just by doing it that way is a creative part of the process.
And my secret sauce really has been, it sounds crazy, but it's been Pinterest. It has been finding those graphics and saving to where I am not reinventing the wheel. I am finding these breakdowns where there's one where it's like 10 things that give you a return on investment for your home. And I'm like, I didn't think about that. That's a great one so that people that are remodeling know what to do. So utilize the tools in front of you and just start saving stuff there and saving news articles there. Don't get into the habit of screenshotting stuff into the abyss of the pictures on your phone, because I did, and then you lose it and never find it again. So have a place to store it.
Bethany, I know everybody's going to have a different answer to this. How long should it take to create, let's just say, like one reel, right? Like I know you film a lot of them. I've watched, like, I think in your kitchen, Or in that one, your guest bedroom, I think you told us.
Guest bedroom now. Yeah,
All
I've
right.
transitioned.
It's coming back to me. So you're in your guest bedroom. You've got your topics. You've got some bullet points written down, right? There's no distractions. All the family members are gone because you don't want anybody teasing you, and you're ready to go. How many takes do you feel sometimes like you're like, oh, today's just not my day? I mean, talk us through that process.
So Tuesday mornings are my mornings. It's middle of the week. I know that no one's interrupting me. I have Rotary meetings after, so I know my hair and makeup's going to be done and I'm going to be suited and booted. So I know that that's how I'm going to do it. I have already consumed my content in a separate occasion. So I'm just going to go through and see what hits my personality that day and see what I want to create. But my goal is always to make 5 to 6 reels. And we talked about this on the podcast. If you're just starting out, make 1 to 2. Do not go hard. It's not that deep. Don't go that deep. Just make 1 to 2, but I will make about 5 to 6 and maybe one with a transition. And it will take me about 6 to 8 takes. And through those takes, I leave them. And when I'm coming in to edit the content is when I am narrowing those down on a separate occasion, because at that point with how I look, I just don't, I'm done with it at that moment after I've made it. Yesterday, I spilled coffee on every outfit. I was sweating. I was just over myself, but I made them. I made about 7. And there was probably 10 takes for some and not for others. And because Instagram's glitching, some of them weren't going together right for transition. So I had to do a lot of saves, but take a lot of takes and come back later and what I also say is do them at different angles. So I may do half at one side of my body and half at the other, and I may not like that angle that day, and that's okay. But I change rooms too. But make sure your background is clean. It's not messy. If you know you're going to use a lot of words, then make sure there's an area where you don't have to over edit the words for them to be seen. You should be able to see them.
Yeah.
Great.
One of the questions that came in through Cassandra, and just to confirm, she said, do you think we should be posting every day?
I think you should post as much as you want. I'm going to recommend, I do every day. I try to do a minimum of 6 times a week. I would say try to start out with 1 to 2 reels a week. Build up 3 reels a week, 4 reels a week. I say 4 a week is fine if that's your jam.
But that's 4 informative reels.
Informative.
Not just posting a coffee shop on your story or anything like that. 4.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And I think that's a good way for content. But if you're also going to be posting a carousel and a photo and listings, then you can sector that off. There are lots of people that I love to follow. Utah Real Estate Page, it's Paige. She'll post like 1 a week and everything else is a listing or an informative carousel. And that works for her and her algorithm and gets out to her followers. It is how much content you want to push out. I believe people see me every day and they keep me top of mind because I'm posting 1 a day.
That's
what I want.
But don't just post 1 reel, or don't just batch 2 of them. Post 1 this week and then 1 next week and then disappear for weeks at a time, right? I think that the main message is consistency. Whatever consistency means to you. Does that mean 2 times a week, 4 times a week? Every single day? You got to figure that part out yourself and what you have time for, and let the creative juices flow. I have a quick question for you, and I think just by how you were delivering some of your message, be very careful with your numbers. Make sure you check your facts. I can feel like you've had some internet trolls or people that are, questioning some numbers you put out there. How do you deal with these people that, are just looking to shake things up and, rock your boat just by, trolling your Instagram?
Yeah.
How do you deal with those? Do you delete them? Do you
John's
respond?
dealing with that right now. That's the problem. He's like, what do I do with all these haters?
Asking for a friend. So I don't really post numbers. I've seen real estate agents do it and I've seen the numbers be wrong. And that was my lesson from them was let's let the lenders do their numbers. And if I can make it to where I know it's factual, great, but I'm not going to compare payments. That's just not in our wheelhouse, in my opinion. I think that's in the lender's wheelhouse unless I can get exact numbers. Now, I have been trolled, as I said. The reason why I say the state you're in and what you do. Texas is one state where the seller pays the commission most of the time, and that's in our agreements. And I posted a long time ago, and I even took it up to the state just to check. But I'm a rule follower and a nervous Nancy on that. But I put, buyers don't pay commissions. And that thing the comments got wild. And people were like, no, in our state, it's not like that. And I was like, I said from a Texas state of mind. Like, that's what I said, but people don't read the captions always. So if you feel that it's going to be controversial in that way, make sure you're backing yourself up and you're showing it. But with the comments, I try to respond if I feel like we can talk through it. But if they are just as negative as it can be and you feel like it is ruining the flow, delete them. Don't lose sleep over it. But if they're trying to have an educated conversation and have a good, not argument, but just conversation about the topic that you're on, I'm all for it. But if they are just being mean and hateful and disrespectful, take them off your comment section. That's my rule of thumb. I asked a friend who was Miss Texas, who is a real estate agent, and she's stunning. And I was like, okay, girl, what do you do with trolls? And she goes, delete them. Just get rid of them immediately. And I was like, okay.
Perfect.
One last question from Cassandra. And this is an important one. I don't know how we haven't touched upon this yet. Talk to us about the amount of business you've received from the Reels, whether it's agent to agent referrals, whether it's from direct buyers, direct sellers. It's always hard to put your finger on the ROI. Like, I did 20 Reels and I got 1 referral. I don't expect you to look at it that way, but talk to us about some business that has come from social media.
So I actually do track it. I just haven't done the numbers on it. But I get a ton of agent to agent referrals. I would probably say out of almost 50 transactions that I did last year, 15 were agent to agent that weren't in my area, that were just from finding me on social media. About 5 to 10 were probably just people that found me on social, that they sent people my way. So don't discount these agent to agent followings, because at first I was like, why are all these realtors following me? This makes no sense. They're going to have someone that's coming in your area. Or for me, we have agents that cover the Austin area too. So they may have someone that my office can help. So make sure that you're being welcoming of those conversations and engaging and connecting as well. But yes, I wouldn't say 50% of my business, but probably 30 to 40 just from social media. And I try to track it as well as I can to see where my return's coming in. So it can be valuable if you're giving valuable content.
You said a lot of agent to agent referrals. Real quick, Kiro. Would you say those are other agents within Texas sending you people from other areas as well?
All over.
Not just within Texas saying, hey, I don't cover this area. Okay, good.
And that's how I refer out. I have lots of people that move from my area out, and I'm looking for them on people that have engaged with me. If you've engaged with me, I'm writing your information down. I want to work with you first, and then I'll do the search from there.
Yeah. One thing that Bethany does a really good job about is creating a community. So a lot of her Rotary Club, a lot of the people that she meshes with, she does a big effort in building a community so people can think of her when they think of real estate. I know we're running on time and there's a lot of other questions that are being asked on the chat. You would have to give Bethany a referral for her to answer your questions in addition. We're going to get this transcribed. So if you want more information or any more value from Bethany, we're more than happy to get the list of 10 sent over. Anything that you want to add, guys?
I think Bethany, do you have just a minute for one more question?
Absolutely.
Just because these last 2 questions that came in are very similar.
Yes.
Where do you find the voiceovers? And the other question was, where are you finding the trending audio? Same idea.
Yeah. So that's where I'm consuming my content. I am following these social media marketers. I am following these fitness bloggers. I'm following a lot of people. So I'm finding what they have. I save what I like. I'm also going through that bottom right Reels section and I'm just scrolling.
Are you doing a lot of voiceovers these days, or are you taking content like the Finance Cowboy's doing and making that real estate related? What would you say the breakdown has been recently?
50-50. I mean, like, I am finding some sounds that I like and I'm doing with it what I want. And then some of them I'm rinse, reuse, and repeat of what they did, but making it real estate related.
Yeah.
So
Awesome.
the content's out there, the resources are out there for you to not have to reinvent the wheel. And if y'all have other questions y'all think about, DM me. I'm an open book.
She certainly is, and she's always willing to help. And that's why we've always enjoyed collaborating with you. So thank you so much for spending some more time with us. If anybody wants to reach you, what's the best way for them to get you on Instagram? If you don't mind just sharing your handle again.
It is at Bethany Nolan Realtor on all platforms.
And you cover East Texas, which is like, what's the major city right there?
Longview, Tyler area. So I'm between Dallas and Shreveport.
Awesome. All right. Well, we do again appreciate your time, and hopefully we'll be seeing more of you on other platforms. We're starting up our Light It Up Mastermind. So if anybody has any interest in joining that, certainly reach out. And we're hoping to do these webinars every Wednesday, whether it's live on YouTube or just subscribing through or registering through Eventbrite. Let us know if there's anybody else you'd like to have us on or have us interview or co-host with. So reach out if there's anybody else you'd like to see on here. Thank you guys so much for joining.
Thank you.
Cool.
All right.
I wonder if Elvic stops the live. Is that predictable or?
Yeah. I'm sure he's on it. Elvic, we good?